Can you really make your game stand out from the crowd?
Okay, I will start by presenting myself. I'm a co-founder of Summus Lab. We are a content provider, a platform provider, aggregator provider for mostly for the lotteries and lottery type products. So what we do, we convert different type of the games into the lottery games. So we know content, we know how to make content work. So I will then allow Alexis, you present yourself, and I suppose that instead of having questions and panels, we will just start chit-chatting and speaking and giving our thoughts.
That sounds great. I'm Alexis Wicén. I've been in the industry for 15 years now, I think. I currently work with Unibo, where we build a retention tool focused on gamification and providing operators in primarily casino, but soon to be sports betting as well, with promotional tools that increase engagement and retention amongst the players.
Also, we are waiting for Darryl. They're also the content provider, so they're doing games. And we are waiting for Robert, but I don't know. He said that potentially he's going to come a bit later. Okay, so let's start. When you started with your gamification project, what was the main intention? Why you did all of that? Why you started? Where comes the idea?
The whole idea was we saw that providers were building these tools to increase engagement with players. I mean, we see in mobile games that the additional layers of gamification really helps keep the players engaged, and it's something extra outside of the games. So you can really tell them or focus their gameplay where you want to get them focused and extend their gaming sessions through additional smaller promotional values for them.
Okay, I will add from our side. Back in 2012, I think, we understood that, online is coming, retail is slowing down. There are more and more content providers who are providing slots. So we organized the first virtual sports betting game, virtual boxing. Or at that time already there was a lot of games like virtuals, and we started searching. That was our main question: how to stand out, how to make a product that will actually stand out. So instead of doing the virtual horse racing, virtual dog racing, or any other already existing virtual stuff, we did the virtual boxing, for example. And then instead of doing slots, we started doing instant games, roulette-style games, slot-style games within the lottery sector, so it can comply both betting and lottery regulation, for example. So now, tell me your thoughts about, let's say, crash games and what's going on with new trends. How do you feel? Is it applicable with your rewarding system?
Yeah, of course. I think it's very interesting to see how different games pop up when someone comes with a new idea, and all the other providers sort of flock to it, and everyone has to build it as well. Most recent are, as you said, crash games, but before that, I mean, Evolution bringing the wheels into the live space, and I mean, we have block slots or grid slots and so on. So there's a lot of ideas in online gaming so it's going to be interesting to see what the next kind of big idea is that everyone will flock around and then create new games around it. I think sound is something that's probably going to get more value going forward and focus on.
Okay. Well, to be honest, from my opinion, we are right now in a situation when you have a lot of slots, thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of slots, and players, they're searching something new. So I don't know. I think that psychology will actually be the one, but that's just my opinion. That psychology, the player retention, how you act with the players on the multiple levels, such as, I don't know, sounds, such as animations, such as designs, colors, and everything. Those factors will actually be the one who are put it on the math, which must be interesting and applicable to a player in the long term because of the LTVs and because of their willingness to play. But the thing which we see now is that slots are made basically on a 6 months period. So you make a slot which lives 6 months, and then you make another one. It brings you money, it gives you money, but it's not a standout product, it's just a product, So it's like selling garlic, Every time you make a new garlic and you sell a new year's garlic, but that's not the standout thing. So that's not Crash type games, that's not Aviator, that's not Evolution Wheels, but the question is how to make it stand out. So from our opinion, in order to make a product good enough to be able to stand out, it needs to be, you know, based strategically for, let's say, 5 years. And then you ask yourself a question, how do you make a product which will be interesting for a player for 5, 7 years, which then you can, you know, add on, upgrade, you know, you do the second version. Similar to Book of Ra, you know, there was a Book of Ra, then there was a Book of Ra Deluxe, then there was a Book of Ra Triple Deluxe, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, back in the days. So our opinion, as a laboratory, which is game provider, we think that, you know, if you want really to make a content which will stand out, you need to make a 10-year or 7-year or 5-year cycle where you know what will happen with that product, you know, what you expect product to perform.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you really need to focus on, if you want something to stand out, you need to focus on creating new ideas and new ways of, I mean, of course you can take something that's been really, really successful offline, like Book of Ra, and then there's a provider that now everyone makes book slots, and some of them are the most successful that those providers have ever seen. So in that case, you can just copy, but I think there are innovators out there that produce new and exciting things, like Avatar UX, for example, with their pops and wins, and they just create 10, 15 different slots that use that same mechanic, and you have No Limit City with the X-Ways and so on, and Yggdrasil have their double max features. So those kind of features that stand out by themselves can really make something that players enjoy playing.
But for example, you as a CEO of a company which provides a lot of data, you see the behavior of players, you see that psychology, you see all those tweaks and perks which affect. What do you think, from your opinion? You know, what should be focused?
I think a lot of players they try new games, but they generally end up going back to the games they love the most historically and so on, and that's why we see that NetEnt still has huge numbers on Starburst and Gonzo's Quest and so on. I mean, these are, what, almost 10 years old, these games now, so at some point, and of course Book of Ra, mentioned in the casino, it's been around for many years. So yeah, back to basics works very well, but in certain jurisdictions, and I think regulations specifically online will really lead to, yeah, in some jurisdiction it will hinder innovation, because if it doesn't look like a slot, it might need a different kind of license, and needs to go through the whole hoops and everything that is required by the regulator. But in other jurisdictions it might be easier, and it might have players that need a certain other thing. So for example, in Africa or in Latin America and so on, where you might not have as good mobile phones or as fast internet, you might need to focus your games on giving some other sort of benefit that's not related to heavy load, for example.
Interesting. What's your opinion on the features of the games? So, you know, like scatters, free spins, you know, jackpots, whatsoever. I mean, what do you think? What are the features that will stand out?
Well, there's so many now, so and it's going to be interesting to see if someone comes up with new features. But I'm sure there will be some sort of infinite ways or split ways, or mega ways. Obviously, is the kind of the biggest feature that took off really big, and I mean, there's probably 400 different mega way games now. So, I mean, features is a way to make players try slots. If they like, say, sticky wilds, they will try a new slot that has sticky wilds. If they like megaways, they will usually go and try different megaways games. So it's a way of grouping and making sure that players know what they're gonna get. Players who like Egyptian slots will probably not like all Egyptian slots, but if you look like a book and an Egyptian slot, you will probably like all Legacy of Dead, Book of Ra Deluxe, and so on.
Okay, so if I understood, you're saying that, you know, look at what was successful, take that as a basis, then add on something of your own on the mix of the scatters, of the jackpots, of the whatever add-on features, wilds, and then that is a mix that you should try. That's basically the way.
If you want to stand out, that you could do it. I mean, you can just copy and go for it and then earn the money, of course. But if you want something that you want to build on your own legacy and call it your own kind of thing, then I think you need to at least tweak the idea somewhat and not just do a pure carbon copy of it.
Okay, so, and what about, for example, if you tweak the, is it math over psychology or psychology over math? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's a combination of everything. A good idea without good math will probably fail, and good math with poor execution in terms of sound and graphics and, yeah, the look and feel of the game will never work either. Personally, I think that if you have bad math, that can really ruin a good game. So certain games that you play and you start, after a while, you start seeing the same kind of patterns happening over and over again. It gets you a little bit down when you play those kind of games.
Yeah, that's something which also we found. So the foundations that we are, for example, using, and what from our achievements we actually we made it, and our games do stand out in certain territories. So what we did, we took psychology as a basis, then on top of psychology you put the math. Then based on the math results, so for example, you're searching for some certain RTP, 92, 95, 97, 96, whatever you're looking for in that particular moment, then you tweak the animation and the product so it will comply. But the main is actually the psychology, that long-term psychology. So a player will get, you know, a feeling that he's missing something here, a feeling that he needs to buy another ticket. If we're speaking in the ticket, in the lottery business, in the slots, you know, he needs to get a feeling that he is getting there. He's already, you know, he's coming out. So he's very close. Just another one, another couple of spins, and there it is. There is that mini game. So based on that, then you add sound, then but prior to that, you always need to look, you know, your territory, your audience, the ones with which you know, the real players that you're looking after.
Yeah, I think it's very key to make sure that within 50 to 100 spins in a slot machine, the player understand what needs to happen for them to win big. I think Starburst as a good example of this. It was one of the early games that was only 10 cents per spin, and that allowed many operators to give out tons of free spins. So they would give 100 free spins upon sign up, and that allowed so many players to try the game for 100 spins and then realized that, then they understood what they needed to do to win. And then after that, there's a lot of those players come back because they're now familiar with the slot, and they will know how to win, right?
Also, it's very important that they started with those slots. So an interesting moment yesterday, we are going here to the casino, and I'm like, you know, we are speaking with my team, with our team, and I'm like, okay, guys, what do you want to play? The interesting fact was the people who are already working, who are here, who are with us, who we consider specialists, they said, okay, you know what? Back in the days, I was playing the fruities, but not the fruits like the 7, you know, and everything digital. Maybe we will find the old machines, you know, with an arm. And the other guy, he said, okay, you know, and I remember Book of Ra, but you know, the one which I played in some slot club somewhere, I don't know where in my city. So that's the thing. Try, when you are making a game, try to perform marketing activities and sales activities in a way that, for example, on the online operator, you will be standing out, let's say, agree on the, you know, banner, on the category page or subcategory page or whatsoever. So try to be the first game that the new player will actually play. That is something how you can achieve that player, and your game will become a basis from the comparison for all the other games.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's obviously a tall shout to get high up on or first position or top 5 position on many online casinos. There's a lot of people fighting for that, and I believe that Prague has it sealed up with their drops and wins promotions, where you probably need to put at least a few Prague games on top 5. So then you have 3 more top 5 games that you can go after as a provider, and with 80 other providers fighting for it or 200 other providers fighting for it, I mean, focus your efforts on the games you really think will work, and try to get those out with bonuses for the operator and something like that.
So true, so true. 10 years ago, in 2013, 14, everyone were saying, you have a couple of games. That's not interesting. We want aggregator. We want the guy who has hundreds of games. Now, you don't need to have tons of games. Have 5, have 3. You know, 3 different mechanics, 3 different games, but make them good. Make them stand out in terms of jackpots, free spins, wickets, scatters, you know, animation, sound. Make them stand out. Make them appealing to the player, so the player won't be willing to go to any other product. Focus on that. You don't need quantity. It's quality over quantity. By my opinion, today, like 10 years ago, it was quantity over quality. Just give us something. We need content. We need. And now, you know, operators, they need something new. They need something which will make them stand out apart of everyone, all the other operators. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're approximately there. You know, we need.
I mean, quality. I hope so, because I think in the last year or something, somewhere around 5,000 slots were added on slots calendar, coming from 10 different, or where the vast majority came from three providers. So
and
Pragmatic Play and so on. Welcome.
Welcome.
Oh, yes. Sorry I'm late, everyone. Sigma has just sort of taken every taxi in town, so it's a good sign. Good sign.
So, Darryl, it's very nice to see you here.
Cheers.
Tell us your version, your view on everything. So we discussed, you know, our opinions, how to stand out. You know, Alexis as an add-on data feed, that data. You know, the person who sees the data. Me as a content provider, and now you as a content provider, as a studio. What do you think it is needed for basically for the new content providers, for new studios, to make their games stand out?
So there's 2 things we look at. One is organic marketing. Like, I'll go onto Casino Meister forum and promote our brand and get people to know our product and be seen at all the right events. But also, in terms of the product itself, we want to look different to everything that's out there. So I talk about creating a formula for success. Now, if everyone had exactly the same formula, you'd have to change the formula because the market wouldn't be saturated. I remember years ago in land-based gaming, which is where I came from, they said, don't make games in green. They don't work. To me, that's immediately go for green games because no one's got one out there. And if you're in a lobby or a foyer of a casino, and you've got a colour that no one else has got, that's a sure way to stand out.
So did the green games went good?
Yeah, it did.
What was the result?
Yeah, no, it did very well. But also, I was at Vegas a couple of years ago, and my only takeaway, that was the G2E. My only takeaway from that whole experience was this black and white game that Mercure were making. Everyone was like full-on saturated colours. They had a black and white game. That's the only one I remember.
Nice, interesting. And what do you think is that? What is more important? Is that psychology, math, animation? You know, the overall appeal. But the people who don't know, who don't have experience, a lot of experience, you know, in game production. What should they look for, like, you know, the most important thing? My personal opinion, it is a mix, but still there are some components which are much more important than the others.
We have a saying in our studio, the art gets them there, the math keeps them there. So our math is, a lot of game providers will use a formula for their math. We try and use a unique math for every game, just so it doesn't feel formulaic. So we put a lot of emphasis on our math and on engaging the player, but we need to get them there first. So in the lobby, we use a lot of branding tools to try and stand out from everyone else. The art itself can be a brand as well, like the style of art that you use is very important in engaging the player. And if they're familiar with what your brand looks like, whether it's the UI or the art style of the characters, when they see you in the lobby and they trust you, they're more likely to come back.
True. The interesting fact was, for example, I will tell my story like 6 months or I don't know, maybe 6 or 9 months old. So we started thinking on the thumbnails, you know, the small thumbnails, how they should appeal. Should they be similar? Should they be different? And actually, the designers, they came and they said, okay, Andre, you know what's going on? There is this guy, Mr. Beast. He's like the most famous YouTuber. And he actually changed his thumbnails to some specific reason. So he did the research. So basically, when you said the eye is getting them there, the first step is actually to make a good, you know, logo icon, the good icon on the, you know, on that sea of the games, which you can see right now at the operators page. Okay, so Darryl, your question regarding the psychology are you making the games for, you know, a longer period of time or a shorter period of time? Because there are multiple ways that people are doing right now. There are some guys who are saying, okay, we make it, you know, for 6 months and it brings our money and then, you know, let's do it again. So what is your approach?
No, I like to make it for a more mature player, and that means longevity for us. So we like to keep them engaged in one specific game for as long as possible. We invest a lot of time in creating a unique product that engages the player and we try to get it to be as immersive as possible and get them in for as long as possible. Also, so they're very familiar with the style of game that we have, and they need to trust us. They need to trust based on the software, and I'll be talking about that tomorrow. Like, the software is very important in gaining the players' trust and keeping them there. And we spend a lot of time focusing on that.
When you say software, you mean the game engine, or?
No, I mean the way the game plays. I mean,
okay.
Everything from, you can't be pressing a button and have no response on it. It needs to be sharp and it needs to be responsive. I mean, that's just an example. The way the reels spin, we try to engage the player in the layout of the reels as well. That's telling a story for us, and we try and engage the player that way. And the software goes a long way towards keeping that player's trust. They already don't trust the games. Why give them a reason to not trust it? So it needs to be as seamless as possible, and we put a lot of effort in that, so that we can engage the mature players and keep them coming back to us.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, guys, we have 1 minute left. So, is there any questions that Nope, it's still morning. No questions. Okay. Okay. Let's start with Alexis.
For here in the Balkans and CIS, I would say that I mean, Novomatic and those old school slots works very well. In the new regulated markets, there's a few hindrance for new innovative slots, for example, in Czech Republic. So, yeah, it's a big area that's different things work in different areas, I would say.
Darryl?
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand the question. What was it?
So in this region, in the CIS and Balkans region, what are the trends? What should be, you know, what should the people looking after? What are the trends of going on right now within the slots and the content itself?
Okay. I think the hold and spin mechanic is still strong everywhere. Where we are focusing on will be crash games in the coming 6 months. I think they actually crash games in trying to bring crypto-style non-traditional games across to the traditional casino market. That's what we're focusing on.
Is that a good enough answer? Thank you.